human plus machine, so transforming decision making with AI and automation. So as I was just talking to with Clive just there, I'm from a team that focuses on AI and automation. In fact, the team I came from was called is called Intelligent Automation. I'm now in a slightly different team focusing very specifically on advanced analytics and machine learning, but I will talk widely about the collection of technologies that form part of this. So just generally speaking, what we've been trying to achieve over that 2-3 year journey we've been on is about smart machines that extend human capabilities by sensing, abstracting, learning, reasoning, allowing people to do much more. And when we say people here, we mean that holistically. So we mean our customers. We believe this is not just a way to strip cost out of an organization, but it's also a way to help improve customer experience. If your phone lines aren't open and you have a fully functioning chatbot, customers can interact with us how they want, whenever they want. So that improves things for them. We have leaders and business leaders able to get at more parts of markets they might want to play in if they're better able to predict and detect changes that are happening in market conditions if we're monitoring things using machine learning algorithms, for example. And good for colleagues as well, giving them the ability to do much more, spend more of their time on value add activities, where older activities they used to do, more mundane things, can now be automated with things like robotics, process automation, and so on. So that's the kind of general strategy we've been going for. And it is primarily a human journey. It's also one that is required, I think, and all of us, what industry we play in, be it pharma or energy or financial services like myself, if you don't learn to use a new era's new tools for your advantage, somebody else will use them to your disadvantage. Right? We've seen this before. Back in the day, this is a clip from my favorite film of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. To get a loan approved, you had to talk to the bank manager. And depending on whether your bank manager was a George Bailey type or a Potter, that would decide whether or not you got a loan. It was a human process. And a lot of the time, the bank manager would have to go and see the house for himself and make sure it was within your station in society to have a house like that. And then we entered the digital age, and obviously this is a very long journey lasting several decades. But now, if I want to apply for a loan, particularly credit cards, there's no human in the loop at all. It's very rarely that a human will get involved in that application. They're almost entirely automated journeys from end to end using digital technologies. Credit scores, calls to credit reference agencies, straight through processing using digital forms and so on. Most of us on this call today have probably been on the digital transformation journey and to some extent still on it. That, I don't know, 20 years ago, you could survive as a company without having fully fledged digital services. Now it's just best practice. I remember when we kicked off digital transformation at Lloyds 8-9 years ago, and it was like, we need to be a digital bank in order to succeed. If we said that now, we'd sound a bit out of date. So it's incredibly interesting how fast things are moving. And now we enter the age of AI, where the same will be true in, I don't know, 5-10 years time, where using AI at scale will be brilliant basics rather than something we should do to gain some kind of advantage. That if I want to talk to a bank now, well, maybe not a bank all the time, but if I want to talk to an organization now, I'm often now talking to some form of AI, either in back office processing or the chatbot or something else, if that is the channel I choose to adopt. So as I said before, there's a collection of technologies that we fundamentally class as AI that you may already be aware of. Robotics process automation kind of does what it says on the tin. It automates a process using robotic software. Virtual assistants, things like chatbots, things like even like Google have invented one where you can actually talk to a chatbot over the phone, which is, I think, is a bit weird, but at least you can use them on the kind of online chats rather than talking to someone in a call center. Intelligent products, things like optical character recognition, speech to text. Instead of sampling a few phone calls to make sure my conduct is right as an organization or make sure my colleagues are doing the right thing, I can transpose every single phone call that's ever made to my organization and then use machine learning and natural language processing algorithms to understand sentiment within those kind of phone calls. So massive amounts of more data that can be created through intelligent products. And then the area I'm just going to deep dive into in the next 10 minutes is machine learning and advanced analytics. Sometimes a separate technology, sometimes just the thing that underpins the other technologies like virtual assistants and intelligent products. But sometimes there's big overlaps between these things, but I'm just going to segregate for a second machine learning and advanced analytics. So the definition being machines that can learn from data rather than being specifically programmed. So understanding patterns in data that no human or Excel spreadsheet could ever spot, and applying predictions and prescriptions on top of that to recommend optimum strategies to do something else. So there's a maturity cycle when it comes to using artificial intelligence generally. If you make it specific to machine learning and advanced analytics, it looks something like this. Now, hopefully most of us have already gotten past 1 and 2, where we've gone through the process of our bank, our energy company, our whatever, has loads of data on customers, on how we do things, on our supply chain. That data is then being collected in different, probably now aging heritage platforms and systems in silos owned by the particular, different business areas. We turn that data in step 3 into KPIs and dashboards, and we start every major committee meeting at executive level as well as junior level with some view of data or a graph or a KPI or a dashboard. How is our business doing? How are we doing against our targets and that kind of stuff? And then we started moving into predictive analytics. In other words, instead of human beings saying, here's what I think will happen next, we're starting to apply statistics and modeling, sometimes machine learning, to actually say, here's what our forecast is for the future. Here's what is going to happen next. Most business decisions are made, let's face it, on what we believe is going to happen next. An energy company will buy options to buy fuel or upstream processes, depending on what they think the economic conditions are going to be. So we start to make predictions about the future. That's going to be us as organizations, no matter what industry we play in, falling behind in the next 5 years, if that's how far we go up this maturity cycle. If we don't start turning to the more of advanced forms of machine learning and genuine AI, like prescriptive analytics and holistic big data analytics that I've drawn out here, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a second, the only way for competitive advantage is to use these things at scale. So being on the journey right now is fine, like Lloyd's is very much kind of existing between 4 and 5, I would argue. If we don't pivot towards using big data at scale, holistically across our organization and all other AI technologies, we will fall behind. For example, our cost to income ratio at the moment in Lloyd's is market leading. That will not be the case if we don't use AI automation and reduce our cost to income ratio, given that income is probably going to be flat for some time now, for all obvious reasons. The only way to go for cost to income ratios is in stripping cost out. So a bit more, a couple of examples of what I see in industry on who's playing where on this maturity cycle. So in terms of predictive transformation, a good example of this is how oil and gas companies use predictive analytics and things like Bayesian statistics to figure out probabilities of where to find fossil fuels in different parts of the world, and where they're better spent doing their exploration to give them the highest chance of success, using large amounts of geological data in order to make those predictions and waste less time, waste less effort in searching for these things. Also in predictive maintenance, in applying loads and loads of tiny little sensors on vibration and heat across their drilling equipment. So instead of them saying, we will maintain and replace this piece of equipment once every month, they will now have a machine learning model that predicts when the most likely moment for that thing to break is. So you spend less time maintaining and you maintain less downtime, because obviously you make the most profit from an oil rig with the amount of time it is on stream at full capacity. Turning to prescriptive transformation, and I think it was Justin who mentioned earlier in chest x-rays and diagnostics. So this is a fantastic advancement of AI automating the diagnostic process in medicine. So cancer biopsies, trying to figure out, using millions and millions and millions of examples of false and true historical versions of a biopsy saying one is cancerous, one is not. A machine learning algorithm can now look at a new biopsy and say with a higher degree of accuracy than a human doctor, whether or not it needs to be treated. That's predictive analytics. So understanding what is something or what is going to be, or maybe it's detective analytics, but kind of the same thing. But then they're now starting to use machine learning and other AI technologies to put together treatment plans. So this is actually when it gets into prescriptive, machines knowing what is the most likely course of treatment to have the biggest effect and biggest impact on a patient. This means the doctor can spend more time treating those patients than spending ages trying to figure out the diagnostic and the prognosis and then the treatment as well. So an interesting human plus machine thing going on in medicine, which hopefully will make all of our lives better from a medical perspective, and also reduce costs for things like the National Health Service, which we know is a big barrier to decent healthcare or treatment in the future. So that's a really interesting one. So just diving now into the last 5 minutes or so, just into what's going on at Lloyds. So we've accomplished 4, I think. We're moving into 5, and we need to go to 6 when it comes to advanced analytics and machine learning. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a customer product, for example, and we want to understand within that product silo, what's happening to customers? What are customers going to do next? What kind of products do we need to offer them? What kind of price do we need to offer those customers in order to, say, retain them or improve NPS or something like that, their Net Promoter Score? So, for example, we have a bunch of data on that customer as a product, right? So let's take a current account as an example. We have all of their transactions, how they've used that current account, how long they've been a customer, and so on. We know what their likely options are. Well, they're going to upgrade the account, switch to Santander, do something else or whatever, a set of likely options. And we can apply a machine learning algorithm over the top of that data to make a prediction of the likely outcome of that customer in the next few months. What action are they likely to take in the next few months? If we have a good prediction of that action, we as humans can then make a decision. So what are we going to do next? How do we want to price our product portfolio? We can also aggregate it up on the top right there to customer predictions over a whole book. Is how many customers next month are we going to lose? How many are we going to retain? If we believe this forecast, what should we do? What do we need to do next? So this is where predictive analytics is feeding into how we choose to act as a business. And it's something that's helped transform the way we do business at Lloyds and a lot of other companies in the last 5-10 years. Then moving into number 5, which is the area we're playing in now, which is when you start using some of the more advanced techniques and can leverage more data and more of the compute power you get now with cloud computing, is you have the set of likely outcomes for a customer in a machine learning output. So here's the likely output for the next 3 months. You can then run kind of temporary and pretend scenarios within that computer modeling on future likelihoods, to try and figure out what we would need to do to achieve a certain goal. Let's say it's to retain a customer. We ask the model, find me the optimum price point, for example, to retain this customer. So that algorithm would run and run and run 100 times, 1,000 times, more than that perhaps, on all the different types of scenario, price scenario or product offering scenario, or whatever it is, customer contact frequency, something like that. And then recommend to us, here's the strategy you should take. So you see how it's starting to encroach on what things would traditionally be, things we would decide ourselves purely on what we think and believe. This is now when it gets into the realm of prescribing action we should take. Human is still in the loop. We are still in the loop as people, but it's something that machines are now recommending. Finally, moving into the kind of big data, holistic data analytics. This is when you move out of the silo and start looking at a customer position holistically across the whole organization, all of their product holdings, all of their interactions, perhaps even some external data from elsewhere, if that fits within our risk appetite and privacy, and we don't want to obviously trip into areas we don't want to, or the customer doesn't want us to be playing in. And using all of that data to understand, what is the best thing for a lifetime value of a customer? If we want to drive up NPS, make sure our customers are more satisfied with our services, what do we need to do? And actually, machines starting to move into the realm of defining complex strategies and overarching business strategies, which is an area, like, as I said before, we are just starting to play in, but a long way to go in it. And then just finally, how I see the actual production of AI in an organization like Lloyds, again, is a very human one, centered on 3 parts of the life cycle: input, output, and outcome. What I mean by that is an input We need the people to understand business processes and data. This is just a photo from a workshop we did to understand a business data forecast process. What problem am I trying to solve? Is it worth solving? Who's the person in my organization that understands the data? We might have loads of data, but often if we're from an incumbent organization, and many people will recognize this, there's one person that if they get hit by a bus, what on earth would happen? Can we get that person to join our team? That's what I do at Lloyds. I get those people to join our development teams and be part of the AI development. We need their understanding. What does that data actually mean? What does that data point do? Who understands the process? Do my leaders agree, and do my end users agree that this is a good thing to do? Do you have the skills requisite to build these kind of models? This is a picture of my team. We moved into a business area. We just took over a desk and said, look, we're here to stay, and we're here to develop AI for you to help you achieve your business goals. But you'll need people like RPA programmers, data scientists. We've gone on a big recruitment drive over the last 5 years to recruit data scientists, and so on. And then finally, on outcome, all of this is worthless, no matter whether it's a chatbot or an ML algorithm that a senior stakeholder needs. If you don't get it across the last mile, you don't get it adopted, and you don't get it handed over into a new BAU, the new BAU, you'll be unsuccessful. So running champion challenger phases with the old process and the new process next to each other so people can learn to trust the AI. Do you have agreed path to live? Do you have super users who are going to champion your cause and bring it in? Is it compelling for people whose jobs might be getting automated partially? Do you have compelling career paths for those people to maybe be champion users of this new technology? Do you have a way of capturing that value and measuring the value to make sure you earn the right to invest again, which is what I spend a lot of my time doing.